Focus to me is this, like horse with blinders type of mentality where you are so clear about, exactly what you have to do. And for me as a kicker, it's okay, I have to make a confident swing. Nothing else matters. The fans don't matter, the snap, the ball, the hold. I can't control any of that. All I can control is making a confident swing.
Welcome to Limitless Minds, the podcast where curiosity meets greatness. If you're ready to discover what it takes to be truly limitless and push beyond your own limits, you're in the right place.
Today on the Limitless Minds podcast, we have Stephen Hauschka, Super Bowl winning NFL kicker, best known for his standout years with the Seattle Seahawks. Over a 13-year career, he played and built a reputation as one of the league's most reliable performers under pressure. Originally out of NC State, his path to the top was anything but linear, bouncing from team to team early in his career before becoming a cornerstone of Seattle's championship-winning era. He also holds several NFL kicking records, including the record for most consecutive 50-yard field goals set during his time with the Buffalo Bills. After retiring from football, Hauschka earned a master's degree in health and human performance and now works as a culture consultant, performance coach, keynote speaker, and entrepreneur. Drawing on the wide range of psychological skills he developed while competing at the highest level, he helps leaders, teams, and organizations perform under pressure, build resilience, and execute when it matters most.
I'm just gonna sum up that introduction, Harry. Yo, if you want to get better performing under pressure, press friggin' play. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's get Stephen in here.
What's up, everybody? We got Stephen Hauschka here, former NFL kicker, and more. In fact, honestly, Stephen, as I was preparing for this, obviously we've known each other for a long time since Russ has been in the league and beyond, and actually before that, because you played at NC State with Russ. But like, dude, I kind of like you got a cool background, and we're gonna get into some of that. You're kind of like I was joking with Josh before you came on. Like you're kind of a Renaissance man, right? Because I've heard that you play an instrument. I know about you. You're a badass golfer.
Plays 76 trombones at the big program.
Yeah.
Is what he plays.
Trombone, for sure.
We'll talk about your history and soccer to football, all these different things. So there's a lot to cover with you because you're kind of more dynamic than I think people that don't know you realize, right? And so excited just to get into some of this stuff, man, and get it rocking. But honestly, like I want to start with some of the early days. You know what I mean? Because we're going to talk about
Sure.
how you got to where you're at today. I think many folks know you for your time in the NFL, particularly with the Seattle Seahawks. I think that was your longest period of time, and of course, you won a Super Bowl there. But one thing that you and I have talked about, is this concept around pressure, right?
Mhm.
And there's a lot of kind of our history and environment may feed into how we handle pressure. So I wanted to start with some of that history, right? So you went to Middlebury before NC State.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that and how you kind of transitioned from one sport to another and all that jazz. I'm curious about some of that story.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I basically was never recruited for anything. So, in the backdrop of all this, I was like a good athlete in high school. I wasn't the best, but I wanted to play college sports. And when I got to Middlebury College, I couldn't make the soccer team. So I thought, well, I made the JV team, but I really want to make the varsity team, and they didn't even invite me to tryouts, and like they were totally separate programs. I kind of saw the writing on the wall, so sophomore year I decided to come out for the football team and put on pads for my first time at 19 years old, and I had some pretty good talent, but I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to lean the ball. I didn't know how to take the steps. I didn't know anything about the mental side of it. Literally was a total beginner at 19 years old. Fortunately, there was this kicking coach there, Steve Wolf, who drove up from Rutland, Vermont to work with me. And he taught me everything, but the talent was there, the work ethic was there. And, fortunately played 3 years at Middlebury College. But I'll never forget the first time I went on the football field as a football player jogging out there. It was my very first game, and I fortunately made my first kick. But
Was it an extra point? Was it a field goal?
Yeah,
What
it was
was
like
it?
it was a 30. No, I think it was a 42-yard field goal.
Come on.
Let's go.
First time out.
And then
Let's go.
but then my next two kicks in the game wide left, just
Oh,
wrapped
my
them. So I was 1 for 3. Fortunately, we ended up winning the game. But I'll never forget, we were at a party that night. All my buddies were drinking. It was like a, big football party, first win of the season,
Yeah.
and I couldn't enjoy it. Like I wanted to, but my mind was just racing. My mind was replaying all of these mistakes over and over again. And it was so so unique to me. I never felt that before, the intensity of that before, because I've been playing soccer and lacrosse, all these kind
Yeah.
of team sports, and now here I was like an individual where the result is so binary, and fortunately we won the game, but I was just replaying the mistakes over and over again, and I realized, okay, this is not soccer. This is a totally different animal, and I'm gonna have to find a way to work with this mental side of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really so take us through that though too, because like here you are and you're playing. Well, first of all, what position in soccer were you playing?
Midfield,
Okay, so yeah, because if you were a goalkeeper, I was like, oh, that's a natural transition. A
right?
guy who's kind of on an island alone to a guy who's kind of on an island alone as well in the football. So take us through that. Here you are, you're a midfielder, which is like right in the middle of the action, and you're like, hey, I want I want to continue playing sports. Let me go kick footballs. Like, how did you get from soccer to American football? Like, what was the thought process there? Well, I can kick the ball long, so hey, why not?
Yeah, I could kick a ball long. I'd always wanted to do it. It was the same season as soccer growing up, where I grew up on the East Coast. But really, it was all my buddies were football players. Yeah, I couldn't keep playing soccer, so I was like, I gotta find a way. I was really at the core an athlete, and it felt so uncomfortable for me to not be playing a sport. I didn't like it, and I like the camaraderie of the sport. And I should back up. My dad actually tried out for the Cowboys in the '60s.
Really?
um,
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
I know it's a fun story in the Hauschka family. So I grew up with that. My friends thought it was the coolest thing. He
Wait,
never
what
he
was he?
didn't
He wasn't. Was he a kicker or did he
punter
play different?
a punter kicker. They
Okay.
did this. They did this kicking caravan. So they would send like a bunch of scouts around the country and do tryouts at different college campuses. And my dad
Yeah.
got signed to the Cowboys in the '60s
That's amazing.
from that. So I grew up with that story. Always, in eighth grade, I kicked a few balls into the tree in my front yard. Few footballs. Thought I could do it basically, and it wasn't
Yeah.
until I
Yeah.
couldn't play soccer anymore that I really tried it. Um, fortunately, fortunately, I didn't make the football team. Or sorry, fortunately, I didn't make the soccer team because I
Yeah.
probably would
Yeah.
have just ridden the bench there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then did you graduate early? Is that what kind of gave you eligibility at NC State? Did you
Well, I
graduate
I
like you had a
graduated,
degree?
so because I didn't play freshman year,
Oh yeah.
I played sophomore, junior, senior year. I had 1 year of eligibility left
That's right.
in football, so I
That's right.
And
That's
graduated
right.
and went to NC State.
how did that come
Russell
about
did
going
Russell
from
did the same thing
going to
at NC
Wisconsin?
State to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait,
Yeah.
how did that work though going from Middlebury, which is up in the middle of nowhere in Vermont, like surrounded by cows and trees, to hey, big ACC school where there's, 45,000 people to 60,000 people at every game.
Yeah, I mean it was intense. Like I was freaking out because at Middlebury we had maybe 1,500 people, literally more cows watching probably than fans in the stands. It was, and it was usually just family at the game. So the pressure I put on myself was probably the same, but all of a sudden with 70,000 people watching, it felt so much more critical. And it took me that whole season at NC State to get comfortable with that. But I did learn. Like I remember the first few games, I was just like trying so hard to just treat it like it's a another kick. Just treat it like it's a practice kick. Trust myself, all that stuff. But I was like so tight, and like I was breathing hard. My hands were sweaty, all that stuff. But I was my kicking coach taught me emotional freedom technique, which is this tapping technique. And so we would we would tap the night before the game, the morning of the game, and that helped me a ton to just handle the pressure of,
Wait, what's so
you
tell
know
me about this tapping. Tell me more about that tapping technique.
so yeah, it's called emotional freedom technique, and there's these acupressure points like kind of on your palm, your on your face. You
Hmm.
do like and basically what you're doing is you're doing self-talk during the process. You basically identify kind of any obstacles you have or any concerns you have. So it could be something as simple as, hey, even though I've got concerns about the amount of, 70,000 people at the game, I deeply and completely accept myself and I love and forgive myself.
Dang.
So it's
I
like a,
haven't heard
it's like
that.
a
Josh, have
10
you
minute,
heard
it's like
that?
a 12-minute process.
Uh-huh.
Here, I'll show you. Okay.
Yeah.
So even though I have some concerns about 70,000 people at the game today, I deeply and completely accept myself and I love and forgive myself. This whole thing would take like 10 minutes, but I'm going to do it in one.
Yeah.
These concerns I'm having about the game today,
So now he's
I've
tapping
had
his
them
head.
long enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to let them go. All remaining concerns be gone. And you get here. I'm going to be more comfortable out there than I've ever been. I'm going to be relaxed and smooth. I'm going to be more confident out there on that field than I've ever been. Every ball is going high through the middle of the uprights. Finally, I'm going to be more focused out there than I've ever been. The only thing that matters out there is me, not the snap, the hold, the ball, the field, the fans. The only thing that matters out there is me. I can't wait to get on the field right now because I believe in myself. I trust myself and I love myself. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to be just fine. I'm going to be just fine.
That's cool, dude. Thanks for taking us through that. So, like, for those that are listening and they can't see and they aren't watching on YouTube or whatever, he started with like the outside of his palm tapping while he was saying those kind of affirmations and kind of the self talk. Tapped the top of his head, tapped it, I think the under his eye, right under his eyes, on his cheekbones. Then he went to his forehead. Then I think he went to his chest and maybe your back of your hand. I think, but
Yep.
that was cool, dude. Thanks.
I
Yeah.
gotta say I need to do that before I do any podcast with Harry. I need to do that before I
Do I
do.
make you nervous? Do I make you nervous? Um, I love that,
There's a
dude.
Well,
lot of research. There's a lot of research to back it, but it honestly just worked for me. I was 19 years old playing football at NC State.
Yep.
I had to find something that
Yeah.
helped me perform.
Yeah.
And this self-talk, obviously you heard the self-talk in there. It's kind of positive affirmations, but there's a mechanism to it. You're identifying, your concerns, and you're squarely looking at it and accepting it, and then loving yourself for having it,
Yeah.
and then you release it, and then from there you start to build up the mindset that you want.
You know what
So
was really cool about it too, Stephen, is it's like it was you were taking control. Like, you were not
yeah.
letting your thoughts control you. You were taking control of your thoughts. So, the first
Hmm.
part about that is, like, we talk about it all the time. Thoughts just pop into your head. They're just gonna pop into your head, right? And we don't have any control of what pops into our head. We have control of what we do with them. And so here we are. Okay, I have these concerns. They popped into my head more than likely. And so now I'm going to honor them. I'm going to control them. I'm going to take care of them. And I'm going to choose to move past them. And I'm going to move past them over here on this path that's going to serve me better for the performances I want to have and to control my energy and to control my nerves. So it was so cool to watch that occur and to see
Well,
even your body language change as you did it.
yeah, there's a cathartic, it really is energetically. It was, I did this through my whole NFL career. I did a lot of different things. This was super helpful. Just I felt like I could do anything. I felt like I could go out
Hmm.
into the Super Bowl and kick in front of, millions of people and just be totally locked in because I was so clear about my okay, let me back up. So when people have concerns are so natural that we have this ego, we have this brain structure, the amygdala, that is scanning the environment for threats. It's the most natural part of our science, our biology, and it's going to keep bringing up kind of like threats, so concerns, things like that. So it's totally natural that that happens, and a lot of people avoid it and try to act like it's not happening or act like it's not there. And I just, from the pressure cooker that I was in as a kicker, I realized early on if I wanted to be a great kicker, like these thoughts were not going to stop coming up. Like they were, I had to find a
Yeah.
way to work through it. It's like they were going to keep coming up. So then I learned it actually carries more weight Like it's like this nebulous cloud that just hangs over you if you try to ignore it and run from it and avoid it. And so eventually I was like, what am I freaking scared about? What am I concerned about? Oh, it's embarrassing myself in front of 70,000 people, or it's the 70,000 people in the stands. Oh, it's the wind. Oh, one of the most random ones, playing Adam Vinatieri, my like childhood hero, and I was concerned about, playing poorly in front of Adam Vinatieri. So just acknowledging these things kind of like sucks the weight out of it,
Yeah.
and then you now have agency back. You now can take control of the situation because oh, that's what the thing is. You're basically saying hi to it,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
that's the thing that, I'm concerned about. Now let me get back to, how I want to feel out there.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
bison buddied it, man. He ran into it. He doesn't
Yeah.
he's not the cow on the plains just trying to avoid the storm. You're turning into the storm and you're running through it versus,
Yeah.
"Hey, like, I can't handle this. No, I don't wanna deal with it." No, you things are gonna
Yeah.
happen. You're gonna have to deal with them and you're gonna run through them. Sorry,
I love
Harry, I
it.
totally cut you
No,
off.
no, I love it. No, let's just keep it moving. I love it. This is like,
And a lot of times too, the act of looking at it makes you realize, oh, well, that is there anything I can even do about that? No.
hmm
So like, let's just move on.
yeah, yeah,
So just realizing that it's not serving you, that concern, that thing doesn't even really matter right now,
yeah,
also helps your brain shift focus back to what you can manifest and control.
yeah. One thing, Stephen, I wanted to ask you about is like, I had kind of forgotten about kind of your NFL journey prior to Seattle, right? And
Yeah,
there's a lot of people, and a lot of people that might relate to this, whether it be like in their career or heck in relationships, finding love. I don't know, right? But like from the standpoint of, it may take some time to like find, that pocket, right? And so like
yeah,
you played for 9 NFL teams, I think, right? You put 9 NFL helmets on, I think. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah, a lot of them were in, like you said, though, early in my career. So I
Yeah,
was
exactly.
undrafted free agent to Minnesota, and then I got signed to the Ravens and after training camp that year. So I was pumped up. I played 2 years at the Ravens, but
Yeah.
had a failure there, game-winning kick against Brett Favre and the Minnesota Vikings. I jog out there. There's 2 seconds left. We're down by two, and I just get totally. Coach Childress calls a timeout, and I get totally iced.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm not there. Basically, the moment was too big for me. I was tense. I was not like confident. I didn't have the mental skills at that time to handle that moment, and hooked it wide left. But it it was devastating. I got cut and then bounced around on a couple teams for like the next 2 years. But
Hey,
Yeah.
wait, hold
that
on a second.
that
Like, how did you bounce back from that? Like, you just said it was devastating
I
and
don't know
you
if it
got
was a
cut. So
bounce.
not
I wouldn't
only
say it was bouncing, but it
no.
was it was like dead and then come back to life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so how did you
It
Undertaker
was
that?
over. Like the
You know?
dream was over, and I was just I think looking back, there were a few really good lessons. One is early in my career, I was trying to please everybody and do it the way that the coach wanted me to do it, like technically especially. And you can play like the game of technique, but ultimately I realize I'd rather have a confident swing than a technically perfectly swing.
Mhm.
Mm,
So, when there's a gun to your head, or when the game is on the line, I realize technique doesn't matter. It's like how can I swing naturally that's confident for my
Mhm.
body?
Yeah.
And so I fell back on that. I was like, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to swing confidently from here on out. I don't care what it looks like on film. And that ended up freeing me up a lot. So that was part of it. And then the other part of it was like that was I kind of experienced, maybe not the worst thing that could happen. We'll get into that later. One of the worst things that can happen as a kicker, to miss a kick at the end of a game. And, the dream of my career maybe was in limbo, but I was fine as a person, so it was like, but I did feel like my career was up against it, and
Yeah.
there was nothing to lose really. It was like, okay, I gotta go make this thing happen. It's not just gonna fall in my lap at this point.
Well, I mean, the NFL. and this it really is not too much different than like regular jobs, but like when you perform, you are rewarded. You get more time, bigger contract, et cetera, right? And if you don't perform, the NFL has a nice way of helping you find excellence elsewhere, right? Maybe it's another team, maybe it's out of the league, whatever it might be. And so, like, when we talk about pressure, most of us aren't, in the micro, aren't really going to work on Tuesday, and you kind of you kind of fuck up, and then you lose your job. That
Yeah.
typically doesn't happen, depending on what it is. You have it the tomorrow comes, and you can kind of correct it and move on. But like in sports, whether it be in NFL or baseball or basketball, whatever, like there are moments that exist that tomorrow your job might be in question, and so that type of pressure is real, and I just think it's fascinating. So I'm just curious, like, you know, as your career continued, and especially in Seattle, you kind of started you really see it solidified that you're the guy. Missing a kick may not you don't necessarily have a pink slip in your locker the next day. But
Right.
how did that mature the way you think about like those moments as you went through the career?
I mean, I took it very logically that I need to get better.
Hmm.
And there's three things you can train, your mind, your body, your craft. And I went to work on all of them. I really did. And I made it a point to kind of look at myself objectively, try to remove myself and like, just stand and look at myself as a kicker from like 10 feet away. Just be like, hey, what's he good at? What is he good at mentally? What is he good at technically? What is he good at physically? And then what does he need to work on? Because we get so identified with ourselves as athletes, but you have to know one of the most important things is like, what do you need to get better at and how do you do that? So I went to work on all three of those areas. I exposed myself to experts in each of those fields, trainers, therapists, coaches, read books, all that stuff. But really, it was from working with experts that I really absorbed the most information. So I was
Yeah,
just on a journey, and I think because of because of that failure early on, I didn't care what it looked like from then on. I was just like, whatever works, I'm gonna try a lot of stuff. Whatever works, I'm gonna stick with it and make it part of my routine.
yeah,
So I was kind of agnostic
yeah.
to what it was or what the label was. If it worked, if it helped me, I was going to do it.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine just like businesses and corporations, the cultures are different in the NFL. I mean, you go from, and you've seen some teams and you've been a part of some of these organizations, and in fact, you're doing some work now with a couple of these organizations that are out there on the other side of it. But when you arrive in Seattle, I know this, being close to it, the culture in Seattle
Yeah,
is different, right? Not only do they kind of invest in some of this area,
so
but also,
so different.
yeah,
So
and like
no,
the way that
not
Pete
just different.
rolls. Yeah,
So different.
yeah,
So
yeah.
different.
Tell us about
Yeah,
that. Like, what,
explain
yeah.
so explain that to people because I wanna,
Okay.
like I have like, whatever, my time with the Cubs, we felt the same way, like, it was so different there when we were winning the World Series, like, it was just different there, you could feel it, you could taste it, you could smell it, everything, so, explain that in terms of what it was like in Seattle versus other places, don't name the other places, but, like, what was typical, and then what was it like in Seattle?
Well, first off, when any team is winning, there's a good vibe.
There's vibes, absolutely.
Winning kind of heals all. But when I walked in the Seahawks building, they were not a winning team. And like I walked into Coach Carroll. So remember, I'd been on 4 or 5 different squads before that
Mm,
with kind of old school coaches. I didn't know the gamut of coaching yet. I just kind of assumed, oh, that's how it always is
mhm.
this old school method.
O
And I
old
get
school
to
being kind of hard, yelling,
hard,
like,
negative,
not a lot of
yelling. Yeah, just grinding, like.
yeah,
Yeah.
do more, do more, do more, do more.
And when I got to Seattle, that first team meeting, I'll never forget. Like, coach was just showing a practice, but guys were like hooting and hollering. He was showing highlights. He was talking about what the team was capable of. He was pointing out all the guys' good plays. It was like a highlight. Every team meeting was like a highlight session,
Mm,
and he was just brainwashing us with all these really productive, optimistic, compelling thought thought stems, and it's no surprise to me that every one of us played our best ball there.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, Russell,
Yeah.
Sherm, Doug Baldwin, Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, Cam Chancellor, Bobby Wagner. We all played our best ball in that culture
Yeah.
that was super optimistic, super positive. Like there was just an energy. We were working so much harder than other teams, but it didn't feel like it because we were having the best time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, I know that,
it
like, when Russell got there, it's 2012, and I think the year before, yeah, I think they got to the playoffs, but it was, like, I think it's 7 and 9, but I think they got in the playoffs, I think the year before,
yeah,
if I'm correct. But
yes,
the winning was beginning, right? But it was just the perfect spot for a guy like him, and
yes,
right? Because that was already part of his DNA, you know? And
yeah.
Pete and that culture was such a great fit at that time for a guy like him because he didn't like he was bought into this already and he was supported by that. Like it was the perfect like culture fit for him. And so I just, and you're right, all those guys played their best ball there, I think. Right? I mean, and
Well,
it's
for myself, let me just give a couple examples for
mhm,
myself. Coach coach would give these reminders of like, can't, it's a Wednesday practice. Like, let's have a great Wednesday practice, focus on like on A, B, and C. And he'd show us examples of what great looked like. And like now he'd be like, now don't be catching yourself thinking about the game. You can't play the game on a Wednesday. And just like all these reminders like come back to now. Come back to now. Come
yeah,
back to now. All these reminders like a typical head coach will show all the mistakes because it's like, oh, we got to get better. Let's show the mistakes. And but what's the subconscious mind doing there? It's just replaying all these mistakes and ingraining a story that, oh, I'm making mistakes, and you see more of it, you create more of what you see.
yeah,
Coach Carroll is the opposite. He's like sweeping all the mistakes under the rug and just showing you highlights and talking about this vision of what we can become. And it fundamentally shaped my mindset, and I know how much it helped me perform. It's why I got into the work that I'm doing now with teams, is because it just left this unmistakable print on me. It's like culture is the competitive advantage, the most important competitive advantage in sports, because it affects how everybody performs in the whole organization by about 20%.
yeah, yeah. I
It's
think
either going to help them perform or hurt them. And I played, there was on one of my teams that I was on during that journey, this coach, the night before a game, no longer a head coach, obviously, he subconsciously convinced the team like that we weren't as good as the other team, that we were going to lose. And like, I couldn't believe it. This was after seeing Coach Carroll, and
mhm,
I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Holy smokes, did anybody else catch that?" Like, coach just said that we're gonna lose tomorrow. And I was like, "This is an NFL coach? Are you kidding me?" And, like, sure enough, we lost.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
and Coach Carroll before the Super Bowl, the one we won, he's like, "You guys are ready. I can't wait to watch you guys go
Hmm.
play. Like, you
yeah,
guys are ready." He's like, "Trust yourselves. Trust yourselves. You don't have to make any shit up. You don't have to try harder. Trust yourselves. You guys are ready. You're gonna like. I can't wait to watch you guys."
yeah. And what does that
It's the
like
best. It's
take
the
us
best message. It frees you up.
frees you up, man. I mean, like, and take us back to, Super Bowl 48 and 49 for that matter, right? It's like take us onto the field before because I think in that Super Bowl 48 we kicked off. I say we still, but
Yeah, we kicked
Seahawks
off
kicked
both
off.
games.
Yeah, picked up both games, and we all know what happened the first play of the game for the Broncos that first game. But and for those that don't know, it was a safety
Yeah.
snap
Oh,
over Peyton Manning's head. But you're kicking off in your first Super Bowl. It's right after the national anthem. There's still like smoke billowing in the air from the fireworks and like the all the pomp and circumstance. Is your heart rate higher in that moment than it was the 16, 17 other games or almost 20 games
Oh
before
yeah. Of,
that?
of course.
Okay.
Every
Yeah.
play. Every play of the Super Bowl, you know that you're playing in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So
Well, then yeah,
there's
in that game, you get to a point where you're up, however many
didn't
points.
matter. We could have been up 100. We're playing
You
Peyton
still
Manning
show up.
and the
Yeah,
Broncos. They
yeah,
were the best
yeah,
team in the league that year
yeah,
so
yeah,
far.
yeah.
Like
But, like, in
until
those
until the
moments
final whistle blew, like that game was not over.
Yeah, and in those moments though, like, and this I'm curious about this, and this goes for anybody, right? In a pressure situation or like a high velocity scenario. Are you trying to control your thoughts? Are you trying to just simplify them? Are you trying to kind of create a plan B in your mind? Like where does your mind go when the velocity is high? Especially now that you know what you know, right? And you've
Yeah.
been through what you've been through.
So part of this is just understanding what does it feel like and look like to be at your best, and understanding that like the back of your hand, so you can just get into that mindset like
Mhm.
so quickly. But for me, it was, being calm, confident, and focused, and then underneath that, like trusting in myself, believing in myself, and then the deepest layer of it was like unconditional self love. Just this
Yeah.
feeling that like even if I screw up royally, like I know I can handle it and like come back from it, and I love myself for just being in this situation. So that helped free me up too. But calm, was kind of like, okay, if I'm amped up, we would do it on a scale 1 to 10. So if I'm like breathing really heavy, if I'm sweating, if I'm hands are like jittery, let's just do some conscious breathing to take it back down. You don't want to be falling asleep on the sideline, but I don't want to be at a 10. So let's
Yeah.
bring it from a 8 or a 9 down to like a 5 or a 6.
Hmm.
Then confidence is, about what you say to yourself about kind of the challenge at hand. It's a lot of self-talk, but just having those key phrases for yourself available on the surface, like ready to go, kind of, and those really good memories of plays that you've made, like your highlights. You want that stuff at the surface. Confidence is kind of a mental thing. Belief and trust are like much deeper, but
Hmm.
confidence, you want those memories and those phrases like readily available. You don't want them buried like deep in the dungeons of the basement and like
Yeah.
hard to find.
Yeah.
So you want to be kind of marinating in those, because like bad thought comes in and it's like, it just like comes in, gone. Yeah, like every ball
Hmm.
is going high through the middle of the uprights.
Yeah.
That type of thing that you can anchor on. And then focus. Focus to me is this, like horse with blinders type of mentality where you are so clear about, exactly what you have to do. And for me as a kicker, it's okay, I have to make a confident swing. Confident swing. Like nothing else matters. The fans don't matter, the snap, the ball, the hold. I can't control any of that. All I can control is making a confident swing.
Yeah.
So that's those were the three surface level ones, but belief and trust, like, man, I have what it takes. Like, I believe in myself. Those are kind of the engine behind it.
And that development of that belief and trust is it can't be done on a Sunday, right? It's done,
No,
Monday through Saturday, basically.
I think so. But it carries you through a Sunday,
Yeah.
and I think it's a belief system, right? That you have what it takes or you'll find a way. Versus like confidence could be about a specific task right in front of you.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense, that
you
makes
you could
sense. In
fail
other
you
words,
could
like, no matter
fail
what
you
comes
could
my
fail
way, I'll
that.
figure it out, you know?
Yeah, you could
Yeah,
fail on that one task, but belief is the underlying of knowing that you'll find a way to get better and overcome it and move. It's more of a longer time scale.
yeah, that makes total it's really interesting, Harry, 'cause it's funny, like, to hear I love talking to elite athletes who performed in the
For
highest
sure.
situations, because I think a lot of people think, right? Okay, World Series, NBA Finals, NCAA Finals, Olympics, Super Bowl. Oh, it's still just the same. Like they think about that Hoosier scene where they measure the thing. It's the same court. It's just the same game, right? And I remember I was like I kind of always had that belief. Well, it's just the same game. We'll just do what we always done. But what you don't take into account there is that it feels so different. And I remember John Lackey, who was a Angels pitcher and then was with us at the Cubs when we went on our World Series run. He can't, before the playoffs started, he said, "Hey guys, this is a different game. Like, forget all that crap about it's the same game, da da da. No, it's a completely different game. Our energy is going to be higher. Our focus is going to be higher. Their energy
Hmm.
is going to be higher. Their focus is going to be higher. The stakes are higher. It's just different. The ball comes out of your hand differently. You run down first base differently. So lean into that. Just accept that. And like what Stephen was just saying, know that we're good enough to handle it.
Yeah.
You know, so I love that. I love that you
Yeah.
said, hey, and it goes back to what you were talking about earlier with leaning into the pressure, leaning into the negative thoughts, and how you started your whole belief system thing with the hands and the tapping. So
I
it's really awesome. I love that.
I think with the way we framed it for the Seahawks in this past run, in the Super Bowl and everything, there's kind of there's a fundamental decision. It's just another game, or it's the most important game you've ever played, right? And both can kind of be true at the same time. But I think the reality is there's going to be extra energy that comes up, and each player, each coach, the organization has to have the ability to either choose, like, hey, I'm going to use this because I want this right now, or, oh, this is too much, I'm going to, like, calm down a little bit, and I'm going to use some mental skills of breathing or self-talk to just come down from a 10 to a 7.
Yeah.
So I think it's just that awareness of, no, I want this energy right now, this is going to help me, on a kickoff, or no, I'm right before like a short field goal and it's really important, and I just need to calm down.
Yeah.
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 That's awesome.
Well, tell
It's
us.
that
So
awareness and then management, awareness and
Yeah,
management.
you kind of have to, and like you kind of have to have a dashboard. You have to have visualize
I
your
like that.
dashboard for, how am I doing on the confidence meter? How am I doing on the focus meter? How am I doing on the calm meter? Those are kind of the in-game ones for
My
me.
comp
But
meter is always out at like 10. I'm like,
if you can bake it into this is why routines are important, because, sideline routines are really important for players. If they can kind of find those moments to chat with their buddies, you know, shoot the shit, that calms them down. If they can breathe, take some conscious breaths and just hey, it's like a timeout. I'm going to take like 10 breaths. Those types of things within the rhythm of a game kind of help ground you to it as well.
yeah, I love it, dude. I mean, I think I'm really curious about how all of this experience that you gained playing in the league has kind of informed what you're doing now, right? I mean, so after retiring, I think you earned your master's degree in health and human performance, right? Is
Yeah.
that right? Yeah, and
Where'd you
then
go for that one? You went Middlebury, North Carolina
Pac-
State, and then
Pacific College.
beautiful.
Pacific
Love
College,
that.
love
Love
it.
that. He's bouncing
Uh,
all over, man. He's everywhere.
yeah. Well, so it was the neuroscience kind of background from college, and then I went and studied after playing. But I think the fundamental thing was, like, the reason I'm willing to talk about all this stuff is it's just so obvious to me that we all have these thoughts, we all have these fears, we all have these concerns that come up because we care, and our identity's wrapped up in it. Whether you're in business or in sports, it's going to come up when something matters. Like, we're going to have these fears that come up, and we're going to start overthinking, we're going to tense up, and if left unmanaged, that can hijack our performance. And so we have to learn how to work with what shows up.
Mhm.
Elite
Love that.
performers, they don't eliminate fear. Like big wave surfers, golfers, pitchers, kickers, all the top performers, you know, they don't eliminate fear. They work with it to show up at their best.
Yeah,
And it's really interesting. The more I've gone down this path, I've realized, like, there's so many athletes, they're they are harnessing, they're accepting, like, the fear is going to show up, and then they're basically working with it to get into their best performance states.
yeah,
Some of them need it, right? They need that fear.
Yeah, it keeps you honest, it keeps you sharp. I think we all face pressure. It's just different time scales. Maybe kicking is like this super intense moment in time, but we all got to provide for our families. We face maybe longer time periods of, like, I got to get my kids going, I got to provide, I got to make ends meet. And so the thoughts that come up from that are just as relevant. Like, are you going to keep thinking in that thought pattern that's kind of not all that helpful and compromising you? Or are you going to shift from that to like your best mindset and your best performance states.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it's all about. It's like this awareness of, oh, I'm in a compromised state. Let's shift to my ideal state.
Yeah. And you mentioned kind of like the everyday person, which is most people that are listening here and engaging. Where do you like? Because you not only you're working with athletes, but in teams and organizations, and in the NFL, for example, but also with corporations, leaders, probably some
Yeah.
salespeople, et cetera. Where do you see like that everyday person struggling with the most?
Well, the clearest example, so I've worked with a lot of sales professionals and
Hmm.
the leaderboards, metrics, it could be the email from something that like a deal is going south. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, like, all these, it could be the simplest little trigger, and but it just sends the mind spinning in fear. And it's like, okay, well, you could live you one option is you could try to avoid it, and you spend the rest of your day kind of in this nebulous cloud that's holding weight over you, and you're compromised, and you're like, you react to it, and you stress out, and you send stress around the organization. And on the sales call, the client sees that you're stressed out, and or you catch that, you take like 3 seconds, and you'll be like, oh, that's interesting, like my body just shifted, like what was that, what am I feeling right now? And you name it. You say, oh, like seeing that leaderboard, makes me feel like I'm behind, or it makes me feel like,
Right.
I'm I feel like I'm not going to make it as a salesperson because of where I'm at on that leaderboard.
Yeah.
But and then like just saying that then kind of like takes the weight out of it, and it's like, oh, is that serving me right now? Like what action items do I want to take? Like, and so it's this a bit in high pressure environments, which executives are in, sales professionals, you have to have a way to shift like in real time from compromised states to like your ideal state, because otherwise you're just going to get thrown around, and you're not going to really be at your best and perform the way you want.
Yeah. Josh, you see the same stuff? I mean, like, because I mean, I feel like one thing, and it really goes lines with what you're saying is, I mean, when it comes down to it, I think people struggle with their inner dialogue, right? And kind of this inability to kind of shift gears into a neutral state, right, where it's about facts and process and
Yeah.
behaviors rather than outcomes, positive, negative, etc. I mean, Josh, what are you seeing? I mean, it sounds
Yeah,
like
I think, Stephen kinda nails it, and I think what happens is there's a distraction of drama, right?
Hmm.
And so what happens is, okay, I'm not doing well, and instead of doing what Stephen did, right, early on in his career where he misses a field goal, he loses his job, potentially loses his career, is probably I don't know how much social media was back then, but probably getting slaughtered on social media because you missed a kick. And instead of buying into the drama of that, he goes, "Okay, I gotta get better." End of story. Like, I gotta get better. How am I gonna get better physically, technically, and mentally? Let's go. And then he goes down that route to work on that, right? And so what most people do though is they wallow in that drama and they get bounced around by it like they're like a sneaker in a washing machine.
yeah,
Just all over the place, drowning in the water. And so that's what I see a lot. And I think, Stephen kind of just, hey, what's your ideal self? Like,
Yeah,
what
you
here's your
have to know
chaos
that North
self.
Star.
Here's your self that's like getting kind of beat up. What's your ideal self? And how do we get ourselves there? The situation is going to be the situation. It's going to happen no matter what. The situation you have, you might have a little bit of influence on it, but you don't have control over it. So, but you do have control over this right here, the person,
Yeah,
your soul, your heart, your belief, your trust, your identity. So let's work on that and let's dive into that. And when salespeople start doing that and they recognize, hey, I want to take control, right? We always talk it life by design versus life by default, right? And
yeah,
that's now I'm designing my life. Steven designed his life. There's
hmm,
there's no way you're 13 years in the NFL, the toughest league in the entire world. Like it's just so cutthroat. It's like ludicrous that that doesn't happen without Steven saying, I'm designing who I want to be.
and to be
yeah,
clear, like I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do any of that. I had to. I
Yeah.
had to. Just
Yeah.
like, when somebody says, let's do like some breathing, nobody wants to, takes energy. It takes
Yeah.
energy. It's like, oh, I got to go out of my comfort zone and do some breathing. The same thing with, hey, you're in the grip of fear and you're compromised. Yeah, it's going to take a little energy to shift out of that. But like you can do it, and within, like 2 minutes real time, you can be in a much better situation, which, when you start to stack those, the consequences of, your productivity, your performance, all that stuff over time, it can make a massive difference in your performance
Yeah.
and your
And I
results.
love how you kind of said, I didn't really want to do that work, but I didn't have a
No,
choice. Right. And that's kind of what we talk about a lot. And Trevor wrote
It's what
about
it
this
takes.
concept of illusion of choice. Right. Like if
takes what it takes.
you have options, you have option maybe not to do it, but if you really want to be great or go from good to great, great to elite, etc., like when you realize that you really don't have a choice, like, I have to do this work. Right. Because there's a lot
One
of
of
us that are choosing not to because of the reasons you mentioned, right? And then they're wondering why they're not having the progress, why they're not kind of improving, why they're not having the
well, I
success.
think one of the other things too, so football was this forced, there was a forcing function to, I was going to be in the moment, because I was on the team, I was the kicker, I was going to be in that moment on Sunday. There's, for most professions, there's a lot of ways to wiggle out of that.
Yeah.
It's not forced, you have to choose it. And when you choose pressure environments, or when you choose to make like, to step up or to go for it or to take risk, a lot of fear comes up. And it's important for us to take inventories of those fears and those, and like really analyze it, like name it first off, be like, is that something that's serving me? Or is this an area that of my life where I want to step up? We have this part of our brain, the anterior cingulate cortex, that's designed for this, and it senses conflict, internal conflict, when we're feeling scared, but we want to take action anyway. And people that have higher life satisfaction and live longer, better lives basically have a more developed anterior cingulate cortex for doing kind of the hard things in life, and stepping up when they feel scared, but taking action anyway. So I believe that life satisfaction is highly correlated with our ability to take inventory of our fears and like sort them out logically, because if they are just left to their own devices, they'll hold weight over us. There'll be this nebulous cloud, and we're always going to say no. But if you say, oh, I'm scared because like Adam Vinatieri was my childhood idol and I don't want to play in the game because of that, like that's just, it's crazy. But that's,
Yeah.
the mind is not logical. And I'll point out one example. We all, many people, unfortunately, texting and driving, or like looking at phones when they're driving, it's like a very dangerous thing.
Worse
Yeah.
than drunk
um
driving.
yeah, it very, very dangerous. And the mind has no fear about it,
Yeah.
and but then things that could advance our careers, things that could improve our lives significantly, that cause like, a healthy amount of fear that probably has to make us step up, we just say no to them.
It's
So
interesting.
the
It's
law,
true.
I guess the point of it is like, we all have this structure, we all have this biology, and so I'm kind of on a mission, just point that out. And so I hope everybody feels better, like, oh, I can't fully trust like parts of the way my brain works.
Wait, it was called the what was it? The anterior what?
Anterior cingulate cortex.
Cingulate cortex, the ACC. Look at that. He
The
went from the
ACC, yeah.
ACC to
Yeah,
the
yeah, the
ACC, brought it
ACC.
full
See,
circle.
The ACC.
for those of us who don't like to do work, is there like is there like a tonic or like a drop thing that I can buy on Instagram to really enhance
magic
that?
pill, magic pill.
No, they got to do the
I
work.
think the
Okay.
I think the emotional freedom technique's pretty close, I gotta say.
I think that's great,
But
dude. Yeah.
That was awesome. I love that. That was so good.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
I
with
mean, the mind, it's the most power. Hey, the mind's the most powerful force in the universe, I think.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we've got to get better at working with it.
yeah, no doubt.
We're on this journey, and it's, that's the game.
Well,
is
thankfully, there's people like you out in the world helping people do it, Stephen. So, you know
Yeah.
what? So here's the thing. Here's what we do. Harry doesn't know this, but we're gonna do it anyways. One of the things we've been doing lately on the end of the podcast is success leaves clues. So we're gonna kind of feed back some of the big keys that we took from this conversation
sure.
about what made you a success. Is that cool with you?
Great. I love that.
Hey, Harry, do you want to go
Kick it
first?
off.
Do you want me to go
Kick it off.
first?
Kick it off, man.
All right,
You're
so
lead off,
kick
man.
it off. I see what he did there. He's
I
this
did- that was
dad
that was
jokes
that was
all
not
over
on
the
purpose.
place, Harry. Today, come
That
on.
was not on purpose.
So the number one thing that I see from you that allowed you to be successful for 13 years and have a career that most people could only dream of as a kicker in the NFL is, your ability to segment emotions from logic. Like that's an ability to be able to kind of quote unquote step outside of yourself and look at yourself from 10 feet away and go, oh, okay. That is a loss of
Hmm.
ego. That is humility. And that is kindness to yourself to be able to do that. So I think that was one of the biggest things for you that allowed you to be successful is you went from emotion to logic.
Yeah. I would say two things. One is I think you found a really great commitment to the process from the standpoint of separating your identity from the outcome, good or bad,
Yeah.
right? And I think that may have started at the Ravens, right? With that
Yeah.
transition from there and that missed kick to then realizing that, and I think you said this is like, what I realized is like, yeah, I missed the kick, but as a person, I was fine, right?
Yep.
And I think that's important. I don't care if you're an NFL kicker. I don't care if you're a golfer. I don't care if you're a sales rep. I don't care if you're a HR person. Whatever you do as your craft and your living, like that's really critical for like longevity, and happiness and joy and all these different things. Gratitude is just knowing that you can separate the identity from the outcomes that and whatever you're doing. And so that's just one of the many things, man. I love some of the tools and techniques you gave too, especially at the top. I think that was really cool. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that right after this call. I'm gonna be tapping my face and my
There you go,
my
man.
hand. No, but I love it, man. This is really good stuff, dude. And
Hey, I got one more though. I got one
yeah,
more for him, Harry. Is that okay?
yeah,
Can I give him one
yeah,
more?
man. Yeah, of course.
So our one of our other hosts, Travis Thomas, he has a book called Confidence is Overrated. It's all about courage over confidence.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that you did was you had the courage. You had the courage to do really hard things. Like
Yeah.
it's not normal to want to be able to kick a little ball, 50 to 60 yards through the air through a designed area. Like that's not normal. Like that's like,
Yep.
whatever. So it takes a lot of courage to do that. So I think one of the other things that has helped you be successful is that ability to have that courage, do hard things where the outcome's not already determined.
Yeah,
I love that you said that word because it's something I talk a lot about, and somehow I haven't said it today. But basically, that whole kind of framework, the calm, confidence, focus, the belief, the trust, and then the love, self love as foundation. That whole thing to me is courage. It all that kind of adds up to because there's this with any challenge, there's a moment of uncertainty. You don't know what's going to happen,
It makes it
but
beautiful.
it's a courage is about like this fundamental commitment to like I am going to go for this thing. And to shift from this feeling of like fear to like I want this thing and like giving it a hug. That is to me, at the end of my career, right? you know Early in my career I had that Ravens miss, which was basically like afraid of this thing.
hmm
And late in my career I had a kick for the Bills in overtime, or 2 seconds left in the game to tie the game to go to overtime. And like I freaking went for it, dude. Like the most courageous, confident kick. And it is everything I've been trying to do my whole career.
yeah. That's awesome, dude.
That's awesome.
Well, I've always admired you, man, and grateful for you to spend some time with us, but also
Appreciate it, man.
grateful that you're in this space. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
you're
I
gonna help
think,
a
Appreciate it.
lot of people, brother.
yeah,
No
I think you're
doubt.
needed and you're a pro, and so we're just grateful to be around you and share you with our audience. And so thanks, man. I really appreciate it. And listen,
Yeah,
we'll bring it
appreciate
back.
you
We have to
guys.
bring it back when you're able and willing. We'll have to do like a part two. You know what I mean?
For
But
sure. For sure. Yeah, I feel like
but
we could talk all day,
for
especially
sure,
all the mental stuff. It's fun to break it down.
yeah, no
No
doubt.
doubt.
Well,
No
listen,
doubt.
y'all. We'll see you next time on the Limitless Minds podcast. And remember, you don't have to be
Not
sick
be sick
to get
to
better.
get better.
Let's go.
Cheers.